Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Heather. I grew up in Winnipeg. Woo woo. And North Kildonan, what? I, mm, what God, I always wrote songs. So how I got into songwriting was just kind of an innate natural thing. I just had to get better and better at it. That's what I had to do. But I was always doing it, and I was just kind of navigating as I went. I didn't have like a mentor who was for sure like take these steps. So when I was my early 20s, I moved to Nashville after having taken several trips there. I lived in Nashville and started songwriting full time. I lived there for 3 years. Signed a publishing deal with EMI at the time, who's now Sony. And after my 3 years in Nashville, I relocated to Los Angeles, wanting to branch out into other genres and other networks. And now I've been in LA writing for 5.5 years. And that's, hey.
That's awesome. So it's like very special to have Heather here because she is from Winnipeg and she's managed to work her way into that market and into those major songwriting markets and is now a career writer. So this is going to be awesome. Thank you. And then Josiah, I'll get you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey.
I'm Josiah. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and I started a band, I guess, in college, and we dropped out of college, moved to San Diego, and got a record deal with Sony, and they moved us to Los Angeles. So I did that. The band's called Augustana. We sold a couple million records, like singles, and that did really well. So I left that band and moved to Nashville, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I love songs, and that was where my career was. And I started doing co-writes and really just learned how to co-write in Nashville as apart from instead of like band writing, learn how to write with like random people. So I did that, and then I ended up in Los Angeles with a new publishing deal with BMG, and write all kinds of genres, produce all kinds of music, and that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna get right into doing this. So you were both artists to begin with, and basically writing for yourselves. So what kind of like made the switch in your mind to think like maybe I won't write for my own project anymore, like maybe I'm meant to be writing for other things?
I couldn't help it. I kept getting I was writing country pop for myself, and my brain was just too creative to stay in that box. Like it just kept giving me pop ideas, giving me pop rock ideas, giving me male concepts, and I just wanted to write all of it. Like I couldn't shut those ideas down because they were just creatively coming out of me as fast as the ideas from me. So I just started finding collaborators who were willing to try these ideas with me, and then eventually I started getting, put in rooms with people that would actually carry those concepts that I couldn't carry myself. So,
what about for you?
I think I'd agree with Heather quite a bit. Like I find women so inspiring. Like I find country so inspiring. All these different genres, different people. I feel like I've done pop rock my whole life. I've done pop my whole life. So being able to just participate in the songwriting process with other people, especially other genders, is pretty inspiring.
So how did you make those connections with these people? Like how did you decide who you wanted to work with or get the attention of these other artists? Like was it sort of home-based to begin with? How did that kind of align?
When I first started co-writing, I was in Winnipeg still. It was all about one person leads to the next. So I was definitely singing around town. So people would approach me, or I would go to their gigs and I could approach them. I think a lot of it's being seen and just being around and being present. I started working with, do you guys know Phil DeChambeau? Mm-hmm. I started working with him, and he was connected with EMI at the time, and so I started working with Barb Seedens, who was at EMI at the time, started hooking me up with some people she knew locally here, and then she showed Chris Taylor, who used to be my lawyer, who's now runs E1 Entertainment, him a video of me singing, and he started to help hook up co-writes in Toronto and Nashville, and so it just kind of went from one to the next. And I think it's just about, like I said, being seen, and then also just getting your stuff out there, because if you're precious and you're holding on to it, no one's gonna just be like, hey, I saw this video of you, or hey, I heard this demo, and like it literally just kept getting passed to a bigger web of people who wanted to help. So yeah.
What was your experience with that?
Well, having a manager is always helpful. Number one, before you have a publisher, it's always helpful to have a manager. So to get you in rooms, I mean, I think BMI, and you guys have SOCAN, right? So that's definitely a big part of the puzzle, is to get involved with them. Like even BMI set me up with like American authors. So these places that you might not find or think that are going to help you out quite a bit might actually really help you out.
Right. So I'm just going to tell, just for people who don't know what BMI is, it's basically the SOCAN of the U.S. So when he's talking about BMI, that's what he means, is like link up with SOCAN.
And ASCAP.
And
also ASCAP.
They're, yeah, I've been a member of both of them, and they've both been like so fantastic.
ASCAP also helped me a lot with Nashville co-writes.
When you were living here, they helped you?
After I went to Nashville, I had a contact there named Ralph Murphy. Unfortunately, he just passed away. Love Ralph Murphy. And he used to help me a lot. So if you can get a contact there that, you know, can help champion you, or in whatever city you're going to be in, they're a free resource. So it's good that you brought that up. They're just there to basically help you. So there's no weird, you know, we need this amount of money, or like show us that you're good enough. It's like they're there to help you, so they should be helping you.
And they pay you too. You know,
yeah, they get you your money.
Yeah, they help you get those royalties, right? So with something like ASCAP, BMI, or SOCAN, like, can you just maybe explain a little bit about, you know, like these seem like giant organizations, and a lot of people think that they're unapproachable until they like go find someone who works there. But can you give any tips for, like, you know, is it the song camps that they're putting on that has helped you, or have you picked up the phone and just talked to someone and been like, hey, link me up with other people? Like, how did that work?
For me, because his story is so much different than mine. Like, his band happened and it like exploded, and I was very like in the trenches for a long time. I met Ralph Murphy, who I just mentioned, at CCMA, my very first CCMA convention. So they do have these music conferences that you can attend. Like, they have Canadian Music Week in Toronto. They have CCMAs for country music. And I had actually had Craig Fotheringham, who lived here. Also another... these lovely people have left us to go to heaven. But... he had mentioned to me, you need to go to the CCMA. So I went, and I just kind of like, that's just like was a networking explosion. I was trying to talk to whoever I could, play my music for whoever I could. And that's when I met Ralph Murphy. And it was years before I moved. He helped me so much for so many years. And it had all begun just the first conference I ever went to, just walking up to him, because I had seen him talk at like a thing like this, and was like, I need to know you. I'm going to go talk to you. And then, you know, he helped me find ASCAP reps in LA and hooked me up with, you know, anything that I needed help with. He was a resource. So you just gotta walk up to
you gotta do it. You gotta invest the time and the money.
You can try to like email them. That wasn't my thing, but I'm sure if you just reached out and tried to email them, their emails should be available. Like I said, they're literally there to help you. But if you can get some FaceTime with them, really helpful, because they feel more, you know, attached to you as a human being. You're not just like an email coming through.
Yeah, the face-to-face really makes a difference. And actually, like, coming to things like this is great too, because here are some very connected people. So bravo to all of you for coming out on a Saturday morning. I always tell people this really helps. Have either of you ever attended songwriting camps in the past?
Yes. You want to go first?
Yeah, I've done a couple camps. I did one in Nashville with like Dan Hodges. It's like a indie publisher in Nashville. I did a really cool one my friend Nolan Sipe put on. We went down to San Diego with like Rachel Platten and a bunch of people while they were writing for the record. So that was fun because that was like an isolated like house on the beach. And, you know, it's just cool how publishers rent out a whole space and really give you an opportunity to get to know each other. You know, so you can get great songs. So you're not just stuck in some random room for like 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever it is, and you can actually like build a relationship with them, and then you'll start one idea. You'll be like, okay, let's put that aside. Let's come back to that. And then just kind of build from there. It's all about relationships. So you could start there and build a real relationship with the artists or the producers or the, you know, your songwriters that you could, you know, work on the whole project potentially and just build the lifelong thing.
Yeah, I love camps. Like, I love them. They have these, like, they call them camps in LA that are just really, like, a bunch of people going to the same studio to write for the same project, and that's not my favorite kind. My favorite kind is the retreat kind where you go away, and my favorite camp was, it was a SoCan camp, and it was in Nova Scotia, and there was a lot of cool people there. Like, Jesse Reyes blew up after that camp. That was really cool to watch that happen. And it's they're awesome. They're just, you kind of become a family at camp. So if anyone ever asks you if you want to go I think
Yeah, one of the most valuable things you can do with your time. So for those writers who are applying for these camps, and like we're actually tomorrow we're going with a group of writers to do a songwriting camp, and they're going to be there as the mentors. So you guys are sort of on both sides of the fence, where you've gone as an artist and now you're going as mentors. But for those who are applying to these camps, because it is a juried process, even with SoCan, what are some recommendations for those applications, and what should these writers have ready to go? And, you know, like, is the jury looking for professional recordings? Are they looking for just like an acoustic version so they can hear? Just if you want to give us some feedback.
This is a sucky answer, but I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. For like those particular camps I was just referring to, you can get lucky and get in by someone recommending you, but a lot of times it's about what are you doing, what do you have coming out, what are your credits. So that's just the honest answer. So unfortunately, it's really hard when you are like trying to get in there and you don't have that many credits, but you're an awesome writer. It sucks, but you might win by just having one contact who's close to that camp and going, you know, take a chance on this person by fostering that relationship. Because I've gotten into things where I had nothing going on and someone was like, no, she's dope, put her in there. Like, this person couldn't make it, and they like replaced them with me, taking a chance on someone who vouched for me, who I had established a relationship with. So yeah, so it can happen, but
I like the honest answer though,
yeah,
because it just kind of you know, breaks down that you do have to put yourself out there and work with other people before you're given lots of opportunities. You have to lay the groundwork out yourself.
Yeah, it sucks how much it's about credits, not always talent. Like, you could be more talented and have less credits, and a lot of times it'll go to the person with credits. I'm just being real, and it sucks, but that's a lot of it. So
that's
even
the
just
music industry, folks.
just make up some credits.
Yeah, are they really gonna check? I don't know.
Like anything that you've had released. It could be something you've done, your own artist stuff released. Like, you know, if you've got something that got a lot of radio play.
Or if you've won awards.
If
right?
you've won awards, if you have, I have a song coming out with this person next month. I had a song come out with this person last year. You know, all that stuff that sounds good on paper, a lot of times matters more than how your music's actually sounding.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's filling slots too. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're you know, for this particular camp, we didn't have like a ton of pop beat makers, right? So it's like if you had that particular slot, in that particular opportunity, that would be very helpful towards what would round out the camp. So it's all about seeing where you fit in and how you could be an asset to the room or the camp or whatever environment you're kind of stepping into.
Very true.
Yeah, and I'd say too, like, just applying is really good because you never know, how many. It's sort of the same with like grants here as well. But like, you might apply 1 year and there's like 60 other people who've applied and they're only going to take a handful, so you have less of an opportunity. But you might apply another year and only like 15 people apply, and there's a much greater opportunity for you to get in. So you kind of never know, and you have to like ride that wave and just keep applying, and no matter how many times you hear a no, like, just keep doing it.
I would say for the camps, like tomorrow starting camp, if you're applying for something like that, where it's more, where like Manitoba Music is judging it, like nice people like Elise are, I would say get the best sounding recordings you can that actually show what your strength is. So if you're coming in as a producer, if you want to be in the camp as a producer, make sure you very obviously produced the tracks that you're sending in. If you're coming in as a top liner and you're a great singer, make sure that you're sending in something that you're singing on. Because honestly, like, we've heard things where we're like, we don't know what they actually did on this track. we don't know what they did on this track. So the track is good, but did they produce this, or did they just top line it, or did they just play horns on it? So just make sure you're submitting something that showcases your biggest strength of what you think you're bringing to the table. If you're a badass singer, like, sing your ass off on the demos you're sending in, because people like us will look at it and be like, oh, we need that singer to be in the room to cut great demos at the camp.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. That's awesome advice. Actually, maybe I was going to open up questions at the end, but I'm thinking like we'll do it in sections. So does anyone have a question about what we've just talked about in terms of like song camps and getting together with other writers? Okay. Angelo? Oh.
Angelo. Oh, he's in the bathroom.
Sorry. We're calling you for a question. We need the mic.
Live stream. He was going to the bathroom.
Of course, like the one time I open it up for questions, he's gone. Sorry to put you on the spot. All right. Raise your hands again about. Yeah, there we go. Oh, turn it on. Is it on? Oh, no. Well, we might just have to bring my mic over there then. That's true. Why don't we do that?
That's
I love having minds in the room. So, yeah, I will repeat the question for the online community. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. So the question is, if you're just starting out and all you have is like your voice and your guitar, and it's not necessarily a super professional recording, and that's what you're submitting for these song camps or to really get in these opportunities, is that enough, or are people looking for more professionally recorded demos?
They're gonna lean towards the more professional demos. However, if John Mayer sent a work tape of Daughters in for a song camp, I'd immediately be like, this person is incredible. So I would say you're going to have more luck with the professional sounding one, but if your song is incredible enough, it's going to penetrate through. So just, if you're sending stripped down songs, just make sure they're like well-crafted songs you're really proud of, that are going to, stand up against a sick beat. You're going to have like this song that's incredible, because an incredible song is good around a campfire, right? So it's kind of like that. If it's good enough if it's a good enough song, they will see that.
Is there another question? Yep.
It's just to kind of add on the previous one. There's a lot of like good basic recording equipment you can get really cheap and get really good sounding demos, like two challenger basses and effects and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, you're just so you can do basic demos on your own with some great or some other recording equipment available, which is really nice. We live in that era now.
Yeah.
Anybody can make a demo, a really good sounding demo.
I couldn't do like anything like I couldn't play guitar when I first started sending demos out. I had to get other people to help me and like, yeah. So I was there. I was just like, I wrote this song, help me.
And that's what collaboration's all about, you know? Team up with somebody who can fill in your weaknesses. So, good beat maker.
Yep.
Would you suggest that if you're submitting a song, and we all believe we have great songs, that we should test those songs on live audiences, other people in the industry that can give us feedback and say, like, this is what the song is portraying, and maybe you should clean it up a bit here, or get some clarity in it. So basically, are you suggesting that we see other people before we make those submissions?
So the question is, before making a submission, is it a good idea to get feedback from other music industry people, from a live audience, and just from other people who can sort of give you that honest, constructive criticism? Is that necessary before submitting, and would that help you?
Do you want to go first? I feel like I'm always going first.
Man, I think you just send in your song. I don't think you have to start doing coffee shops and all that stuff. But I mean, if that's something that you love to do, you should do that. I think it's best to just get collaborators, like I said before, and just have them look over your song, get other people's opinions, whether it's like your kids or, that's probably a smart move. Just be like, yo, do you like this? And really get them to look at the lines and, get somebody else to look at the actual meat of the song, and then get it recorded as well as possible and turn it in.
I would say constructive criticism made me a way better writer. So in my experience, yes, play it for other people. But so I told the story of how I met Ralph Murphy at the first convention I ever went to. He was the very first person I ever played songs I wrote for in the industry. First ever. And he sat there and he told me a bunch of things to change about the best song I had written. And instead of getting like upset and like crying, I was like, okay, I get it. I see what you're saying. I'm going to go rework this thing. So I went and I reworked the stuff that he had made notes on. And I ultimately made the song better. I submitted it to Radio Star like a year later, and I won Radio Star with that song. And I would not have won it if he had not given me that constructive criticism. So that's why I would say I'm a big fan of playing it for people who might be more experienced than myself, so that I can try to get to their level of thinking. Because they'll point out things. Like you said, I love having brains in the room. It's the same with like a song. You get other songwriting brains being like, well, why didn't you go there with the bridge? That could have made it incredible. It could have made it an A+ instead of a B+. So, yeah.
So actually, you might actually know the answer to this, but how many writers are primarily on a hit song?
Oh my God, a pop hit song?
6.
Yeah,
minimum.
like 6 to 12.
But that was not always the way that it was.
Right.
That's the last 5 years, especially.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's just a person who like helped with the like change the beat and they get writing on it. It's like it's all kind of like,
it's not necessarily the songwriter.
I'll tell you, there's like oh man, I don't know if I can actually say what song, but a recent #1 song friend of mine wrote. You would know it was on the pop charts. I won't say which one. There was 3 people in the room, and I believe there's 6 or 7 listed on there because there's, for whatever reason, they contributed something after, or there was a copyright on like a sound that they were using or whatever. So there's 3 people who actually were in the room when the song was written, and like 6 or 7 listed that are making money from the song.
But there's still more than more than one person, right? Like those, it takes a very like collaborative creation, I guess, to really break through the noise. Because I think a lot of artists are like, what? My song's so good, like why isn't it breaking through? And they're like missing these little tweaks that somebody could maybe like, you know, add if they would just open up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. To not be like too precious about it. It's if you can try not to be precious about it.
It's a humbling business.
Yeah.
So it's all about being open and, you know, and not being so precious, like you said. Being cool about other people jumping on your song, especially that are politically centered. So that's a huge deal,
Yeah,
is
that's a
to
good point.
get politically centered with your song in order for it to do something, if anything. So it's like adding those names to it is going to add a lot of value to the song because those people are connected to X, Y, and Z people. So, you know, you just got to be cool.
Yeah, like
You
if
just gotta
you,
be cool
he's
with it.
saying like if you have a great song and then you can add Justin Timberlake's name to it, your song might go farther. Like just like for, you know, if you can get a person who's already well known in songwriting or an artist that's known attached to it in some way, that helps move it forward too, not just creative, not just other brains, but other names.
Right, and I guess like even on a local level, like if we wanted to break it down, like just for here, because you know what I see a lot of is like these solo artists, and they're the primary writers, and they don't have other people. But it's like if you like the songs of another local artist, like ask that person to come to your jam or your writing room, because if you do release that, that's like just another person to be like, hey, come to this release show. I actually helped write this song. Like it's just sort of like branching out a little bit, and I would love to see more of that in Manitoba, and see more of like, we have amazing writers with it from all different genres, and I would just love to see people sort of open themselves up a little more,
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents.
And like we all start writing alone. So
Yeah.
it's like we're all in the same, but we all started alone. I was completely terrified my first co-write, like peeing my
There
pants.
should be a rule to make like your own first record, and you get out all of your emotions, and then you start collaborating with everybody, and you're like, okay, I'm over myself. So
Yeah.
There's a question back here from Nez.
You all were pouring into the answers that I was looking for.
Oh, perfect.
Shoutouts to Ralph Murphy.
Hey.
That's like one workshop I went to that I really enjoyed, just because I got to see his method of working right in front of everybody else. So people would throw out ideas for songs or just like go through lyrics, and he would think for maybe a minute or two, and then be like, you should change that pronoun. You should do this. And then they'd go over it and be like, everyone would hear it, and oh wow, that actually has improved quite a bit. And that's just with him sitting there with your song for just a few minutes.
Right.
My question for you is, because I'm obsessed with the songwriting process, and I like the idea of Josiah, that's your name, right?
yeah, that's it.
Like you said, everybody should get their emotions out on the first album or whatever it is.
Yeah.
When it gets into situations of being in or looking for songwriters to collaborate with, I got 2 questions. How do you seek those people out? And 2, how does that process begin for you necessarily when you're working in a group?
Okay, that's a great question. So the question was, when it comes to collaborating, how do you seek out the people that you want to collaborate with? And when you do, how does that process work when you actually get into the room?
Well, if it's locally, are you talking locally or nationally?
Oh wow, that's a good question.
Let's talk about both. Let's start with local, and then let's go to national, and then let's go to international.
Well, literally, me personally, I'll sit down and I'll make a list. I'll look at everything that I want to accomplish. There was a number of AC artists I wanted to work with, like John McLaughlin. Let's take that guy, for example. I wanted to work with him for years in the past, and I was like, I'll put him down on the list. And I've got all these producers down on the list that I want to collaborate with. And start reaching out. And it's like, I'll get yeses, I'll get nos. I'll have a manager reach out, a publisher reach out, and just try to figure out how to get in those opportunities. For local local experiences, there was a lot of people that I grew up that I thought were really talented, especially in Nashville. Like, you're in that community, you're like, go to a show at like, you know, Third and Lindsley, yeah, and you're like, this artist is amazing. And it's like, they live down the street. Why would you not ask them to write? So you just walk up to them and say, hey, you know, I think you're really talented. Can we write sometime? And they're like, yeah. And then you get into the room. And, yeah, you schedule that like a couple weeks out, get into the room, and they've got a friend of a friend. And then you start doing that spider web thing that you were talking about before. So I think that there's two different approaches. There's like the dream list, and then there's the everyday you're out at shows doing the legwork of being a songwriter, producer, just getting in the thick of things. And when you get into the room, that's a whole nother process of how to get started is essentially your question of, well, we've got concept lists that kind of go on forever. so you got like 500, 200, 500 like ideas. Some of them are titles, some are concepts, some are male, female, different genres. And you kind of just know when you walk into the room, after you start talking to the artist or writer, whoever that be, what direction that you should go down. And you've got your arsenal of ideas, and you decide if this is an A level or B level, C level situation and which one to use. Or you write off of their personal experience. Because I love working with artists. That's my favorite thing to do, is just pull out the best from them and to really understand where they're coming from. And you listen. Listening is a huge part of this whole thing. And just kind of listening mixed with intuition, mixed with openness, vulnerability. All these qualities are so crucial when it comes to really working with artists, because you want to make them feel comfortable, not like you are the star in the room, they're the star in the room. Now, when it comes to working with writers, it's a little bit different, because it's going to be a little bit more, oh, I got this idea, and you just kind of flush through the best stuff to get the best thing, as opposed to leading someone through their emotional journey of humanity. So, it's just two way different approaches, and roles come into play too. If you're the one developing it, you're going to have a whole nother end game. So, yeah, man, it's just a whole process. Those are great questions. Those are like the best questions you could have. But I think they're so multi-layered that each situation is just going to be totally different, and more than happy to talk to you about.
I want to hear from Heather also.
Yeah.
In a situation where you're working with an artist or working with songwriters, do they walk in the room with a certain idea, like you're waiting to hear some lyrics or some chords, or is it just flat out you begin from scratch and there's just a bunch of ideas just thrown out there?
Okay, so the question is, when you're walking into a writing room with an artist, is there already sort of an idea in place? Is there already a bit of a song in place, or concept, or is it just straight from scratch?
Can I ask you what your role is in the room? Are you a writer, producer, or an artist?
He's a mentor and an artist.
I'd just like to answer your question, though, to the best of where your head is sitting.
Boy, I didn't even think of that. I want it from your perspective.
From my perspective. Okay, so I've been an artist in the room, and I'm often the writer with the artist in the room. Like Josiah, I love writing with artists. I think it's mostly because we both were artists, so we like understand it. Do they come in? It's great if they do come in with stuff. Sometimes it sucks though, and you kind of have to like, basically like your goal is to get the very best song that day. So I do, like Josiah, have concept lists, title lists in my phone. And what I also like to do is just talk and get to know the artist, get them talking, how was your weekend? What's your family life? Do you have a boyfriend? And often like something will fall out of their mouth, just them talking, not trying to write a song at all. It'll just fall out, and I'll be like, yo, that. Like the other day, like I was writing with an artist, and he was like, man, I was at this party, and like, I wish I didn't have a girlfriend. I was like, okay, that's our title. Like, like what kind of concept is that? Like everyone, so you just kind of have to find it in the room. If they come in and they're like a dud, because some artists, unfortunately, aren't necessarily actually artists. They're just kind of people that are in a lucky situation who might have a great voice who don't really have a lot to say or something like that. And you kind of have to do it for them. So that's kind of a situation where you might look at like your concept list and be like, what about a song like this? Or who are your favorite artists? What if we did, your favorite artist is Whitney Houston. Why don't we write a 2019 version of I Want to Dance with Somebody? Like, and so you can kind of find stuff that way if they're kind of uninspiring as an artist. And then, so it kind of just depends on how much they're walking in with, and if they walk in with something you don't like, it's just a delicate steering of trying to make that idea better. I would recommend having them feel like it was still their idea, though, because a lot of times that helps them to connect to.
Please keep the song.
Yeah, it helps them connect to it. So if they bring in kind of a bad idea and you turn it into a good idea, you go, yeah, that was awesome. What if we did this with it? That was such a good idea, you know. So keep them kind of like connected to the idea, and then they'll feel more like they wrote the song. And
Or you just fly through both of them.
did that answer your question? Okay, great.
So, you know, we're talking really a lot to the writers, but that just sort of like made me think about, you know, advice for artists. Like, what kind of advice can you offer to artists in regards to bringing other songwriters on board? Again, like we talk about being precious, and they're like, well, I want to get all, you know, I want all the songwriting credits and I want this. And then, you know, when it comes to the production of it, or even bringing another co-writer in, like when they hold on to those like verses, like, oh, but I love this verse. It has so much meaning to me. Do you have advice for those artists and how they can sort of change that attitude about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to engage with writers, you have to be cool. Because if you're walking to a situation with somebody and they're not necessarily getting paid, so you have to work together on this thing. If people believe in you, you have to believe in them. So I think this is a really layered question because there's a lot of dynamics. Being like we've both been artists, we've both been writers, we've both been like producers. So you've been in all these environments. You have to really make the most of every situation and understand your goal at the end. So it's like if you're making a whole album, you write your personal songs, and if you connect to the writer that day on this personal idea, you go there. But yeah, if the writer's got a killer idea that's like a great pop song, or it's going to help get you a single, go with that idea. So it's about playing ball and understanding that everybody's there for a common cause, and just make a great, well-rounded record. And think big picture, not like nuanced picture. And keep relationships. You don't want to like upset somebody over nothing. So that's pretty crucial.
I think big picture was a really good thing. It's like you can keep everything to yourself and think that and have every word belong to you and all that stuff. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you will probably stay on a smaller scale for as long as you stay there. 'Cause growth is just growth. And growth comes from collaborating and people teaching you. And my manager like still uses the phrase "kill your darlings" with me. Like I'll send him a song and he'll be like, "That's great, but like you got to kill your darlings." Like what is that doing in the second verse? Like you know, like I know you like that, but don't put that there. And I'm like, okay, you're right. I'll change
And that's
it.
even the writing perspective. That's not even being the artist.
Yeah, that's just being a writer. So even my manager's got opinions, and I have to listen to them because, you know, sometimes I just get like, well, I really liked that reference. And people are like, well, other people don't like that reference. So I think I wrote like the word puke in a song. He didn't like that. He was, and like, he's like, you know, he'll say things like, I played it for a couple people and they're just like, they hate when that line comes. Can you please rewrite the line with puke in it? And I'm like, oh, I'm so about this like edgy puke line. And then, you know, you rewrite it. It's not a big deal. Like, it's just really not a big deal. No one's going to die because I rewrote the line. So it's just like, I feel like I was really precious when I first started. So it was like a process for me. It was hard. So if you do feel precious about your songs, that's okay. That just means you're an artist. Like, it just means you are one. That's it. Like, that's great that you feel precious. But if you can try to, you know, listen to the constructive criticism of people that you think know a little bit more than you, have a bit more experience than you. It will make you better.
Oh, yeah, I got a question. Okay, so the question is, are lyrics without a tune useful in the writing process, or do you have to have like a melody along with them?
I would just find a melody writer to collaborate with and get it done. Because normally sending around lyrics, people are normally just aren't going to entertain it. But if you find a melody writer like locally, that like you could be perfect for it. Someone who's like, I don't really get lyrics, I'm not good at it, but I can sing like a bird and I have all these melody ideas. That's like a perfect collaborator for you. So like just Elton John didn't write his lyrics. He has a songwriting partner.
And we were just talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Maybe yesterday, where both of us really prefer starting with lyric. It's all about the concept. It is all about, that's the meat of the song, the story. So that's the heart of it. And then you can find the spirit of the song in the melody, in the music. So it's all about the message.
So how many people in
Yes,
this room?
there are.
How many people in this room would consider themselves a melody writer? Okay, and how many people would consider themselves a better lyricist, like lyric writer primarily? So like, look at all these people you can collaborate with, right? So it's just like it's nice that everyone is here in the room and you can kind of see who's out there, and at the end like talk to each other. Like, don't leave right away because you've got all these people in the room that are creatives right now, and this is totally your opportunity to make those connections.
Did you see the hands of the melody writers? That doesn't mean you don't write lyrics. It's just you think you're stronger at one or the other. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stacy, did you have a question? I do. Yeah.
I'm just wondering about when it comes to co-writing or collaborating with other people. Sometimes there's like a little bit of resistance. I'm just wondering if you have a suggestion as to where the line might be between being an eager beaver and being too pushy, or like, you know, the persistence. Like, how do you dance there to kind of be like, but not.
Okay, so the question is like when you're collaborating or co-writing. Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll try to do it. I liked it. I wish people could hear it because that was great. So when collaborating or co-writing, sometimes there is resistance between the people, and the question is, where do you draw the line between being persistent, delicately, or like being a little too pushy to the point where you're kind of like offending that person?
Is this in the room or to get them to co-write with you? Okay.
Oh, to get them to co-write, yeah.
Do you want to answer? You want? I would not. I would be persistent. But if someone's not receiving you, I mean, move along to the next one. Like, there's definitely people as eager as you out there. Like, if I like rewind to when I lived here, I'd be like, I'll write with the bird outside. Like, let's do this. Like, I just wanted as much experience as possible. So if they're not feeling it, I think persistence is admirable, and I think that you should try and you should reach high and whatnot. But there's definitely people out there who want to collaborate with you, and find those people because you'll feel better too. You don't want to feel like you're like forcing someone to write with you.
Maybe get around the people that are around them. So that's
good.
A nice way in. So if you want to write with a particular artist, maybe write with their producer.
Or they're like bass player.
Yeah.
That might be the way to start. Like bass player, guitar.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Actually, I had a question about, as a writer, if you think that you hear an artist and you're like, oh man, like I can totally write for that artist. I have a perfect song for them. How would like, is there a way to approach them so they're not like, what do you think my song sucks? Or, you know, like how would you approach an artist that you want to work with?
Again, it depends on the scale.
Scale, yeah.
Yeah.
Would
Let's
locally,
talk, like, locally even, like
locally.
I just walk up to him and be like, yo, I want to work on a project, or I really love what you do. Compliments go a long way. Like, why not? I feel really good if somebody walked up and like, I love what you do. Do you want to write a song? And be like, okay, cool. What kind of song? Is it going to be, for me, or is it going to be for somebody else, or is it your project? What's going on here? And then make sense of it. But you kind of got to know your game plan.
Yeah.
A little bit,
I think if you have a song you think is perfect for someone, you could try giving it to, like, if they have a manager, go through that way. So that's not like you just being like, hey, my song is good for you, because you're right. They might be like, yo, I'm awesome. They might take it the wrong way. But a manager who sifts through all the stuff for them already might be like, hey, I heard this song, it's a smash. I need you to listen to it. Consider cutting it. And then the other thing is, I would definitely recommend seeing if the artist is open to co-writing first. And then after you've like written with them, to be like, I wrote this song I think's perfect for you.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. Another question over here.
Just want to get back to that issue of just submitting lyrics versus a melody with it. Sometimes we think this is the correct melody line. Do you ever come into a submission of a song and you go, well, I was trying to come across as a R&B song, but that would make a great country song. So can our melodies be way off genre-wise with our lyrics? And does the industry look at changing that, or they just say too bad, so sad that it didn't work?
That's a good question. Okay, so the question is, when you have like lyrics and melody, and say you like originally write it for a country song, but state the person on the other end is like, this would actually make a much better R&B song. Is that like, what is
Acceptable, or
yeah,
they just say, we're not accepting
right. So will they kind of play around with it if they hear the country version, if they're, or will they just kind of be like, toss it aside and be like, nah, it's not what I'm looking for? Or will they actually maybe change it?
I think it makes a better song when it's outside of the, anticipated genre. Like an R&B song would make a better country song than a country song written to be a country song half the time. Like Rascal Flatts or something, a lot of the songs sound like R&B songs. So I think it's cool. And I think that people like that and embrace it and really go there with it.
I also think that if you do like The House That Built Me to like a trap beat, not gonna fly. So
Well, I didn't, yeah.
so like in terms of like, if you write like a story, country, delicate, detailed lyric, and you put it to like, a trap beat, like I said, that does contrast. And if the question is like, are they gonna say like, oh, rework it this way? Like a mentor of yours might rework it, but if you're like pitching it to an artist, they're not. They're probably just gonna. They basically need to hear it exactly how they want to do it. People have very little imagination these days. They buy tracks as they were pitched. You don't agree with that?
Not totally, but it's okay.
In my world, they buy tracks as they're pitched a lot.
Right now in the pop world, that's just how it's going to be. But I mean, when you're talking about country stuff, it's a little bit more malleable. But yeah.
I think he just makes any genre with any genre, right? Yeah.
I think a well-written song often can be played in any genre. But I have heard, this is maybe a good segue into, because I want to talk a little bit about publishing and publishing deals. I have heard that like, if you have a song that you're pitching for like a female artist, then and you're a male songwriter, that when you send your demo in, you should get a woman in to sing that so that they can actually hear it in as it would sound if they were to cut it. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. I think that goes back what I was trying to say about people have little imagination when it comes to pitching songs. I've literally had that happen in the last couple months, where someone was they were like kind of on the fence about a song, and then they loved it as soon as you put the other gender of vocal on it, because they were looking for a female and they heard it male and they go, yeah, it's okay. And then you put the female on it, oh, this is amazing. So like, very little imagination. You want to like kind of lay it out there as much for them as possible. so they don't have to think very much when they're listening.
So let's talk a little bit about publishing deals, because for writers this is really, really important, because the publishers are the ones that are going to help you get into those writing rooms, or to give you briefs to write, or the artist to write for. How did you get the attention of those publishers, and like how did you send them your music and get them to like actually pay attention?
You want to go first?
I am always going first. I feel like I don't want to always take the first one.
Well, I've been in 2 publishing deals personally. My first deal was with actually EMI, just like Heather here. And that was an artist deal. So those are a little bit different than writer deals. They're more money. So, I mean, typically they're more money. I would definitely steer towards, if you're going to be an artist and a writer, you're going to make more money. So that's obviously the place that you want to live. But my second deal was actually through a record label and the publisher. So I worked a lot with a particular artist and did a lot of songs with them. And that led to the next road of they've got a JV with the publisher and blah, blah, blah. So I think it's definitely getting cuts. It comes from getting placements and working with people throughout the publishing company. So you want to plant a seed and the seed grows. So it's like if you connect with one writer or artist at that publisher, it'll generally speaking take you to the next artist and the next writer, and just build, and try to get close relationships with all of them, and then try to get cuts with all of them and get a deal. And Nashville deals and LA deals are very different. So I would, that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Maybe we'll get into it at the end if we have time.
Yeah. Build a catalog. You need a catalog to show a publisher. You need more than like one song, unless your one song is like all about that bass. But
what do you like in terms of a catalog? Like, how do you, do you have like a website with like different versions of songs? Do you have a Dropbox link? Like, how do you
Dropbox, SoundCloud, that stuff's great for sending stuff out. People get publishing deals different ways. There's no like right way to get a publishing deal.
That's true. Yeah.
I fostered a relationship for like a couple years before I got my publishing deal. So I sort of like proved myself by sending in songs and getting better and saying, oh, I'm up to this. I'm writing with this. I'm traveling here and doing this, so that they could see my work ethic too. They were hearing the song, seeing the work ethic. And I was keeping up with them and, obviously saying my thank yous and stuff like that, which makes people want to work with you. So it's like a publishing relationship, if it's a good relationship, is really close, and they're going to want to work with you, and you have to want to work with them, and they're going to have to, know that you're not going to just like not show up or not have the will to make your MDRC.
Yeah, which is
so if you meet someone, say you have like a card of someone from like Sony in your purse right now that you met somewhere, follow up with them. Be like, you don't have to be like, hey, can I have a publishing deal? Like, just send them a song you think is so dope, and be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. Just I wanted to see what you think.
Do you ever ask them, for their feedback? And
yeah. Because like I did that for a while, and then it worked for me. And my publisher told me that when I moved to Nashville, it actually meant a lot to them, because it was like a work ethic. It was like I'm willing to sacrifice my family, my friends, my home, everything to pursue this thing. So if you can show someone, I'm not saying you all have to move to Nashville, but if you can show people that you're serious, because if you are serious, then you're very different from the people who are doing it as a hobby. You want to demonstrate that to them, and they will take signing you more seriously if they know you're serious.
I mean, that's like so many hands went up. That's like essentially every industry relationship is like, you're not going to get a management deal or a record deal or a publishing deal if they don't see you working your butt off for a long, long time. I'll take a question from you. So the question, and this is a great question because I'll often wonder about this. The question is, do you recommend starting locally, or do you think that it is important to move to a larger market that has a bit more songwriting culture?
Is there like a wrong answer because we're at Manitoba Music right now?
No, there's no wrong answer at all.
Okay.
We want total reality here.
I feel like most of the hometowns, like every hometown has like the dude that you go to make records, right? So if you're the dude that makes records or the girl that makes records, you can take that and kind of grow that, because you need the tools. You need a place to start. You need, your setup. You need all that stuff. So I would start locally, personally. I would do a little bit, get your bearings, get some family support, get support of your community, get some plays on SoundCloud, and get some streams, and then dive into it, for the big time. Yeah. Yeah, and you can make all your mistakes. It's about making mistakes. I feel like, writing a bunch of bad songs is probably a good thing first.
Yeah. I think get your experience in your local place first, like you just said, so that you're not like your first co-write isn't in LA or Nashville, because you'll be so intimidated. And then so you get comfortable with that. You get comfortable with all the things that have to do with songwriting. You feel like you're good enough. When you get there, you're going to feel like you're not good enough again. Because, that happened to me. Like, reality check, I got there. I was like, I'm a really good songwriter. Like, I just won a national contest. And then I got there and I was like, oh, I have to be a lot better.
That process happens like every day. You feel like you're not good.
So it kind of like whoa, like the best talent of North America are in like those cities right now. So you're up, you want to get to a good level, but you don't want to wait too long to go there. And what I would recommend is to not just land there with absolutely no one, is to try to take trips to, are you thinking about Nashville or LA? Would you grab Los Angeles? I would try to, like, the people we talked about before, if you know any managers or like SoCan reps or anyone that you can possibly reach out to that could help with just any sort of connections in LA, take some trips first while you're working on it here, getting your experience, get comfortable, take trips there, make a few contacts. Then if you decide to go out there to move, which if you're serious, you probably will, move out there and you at least have like your little spider web to start with, so that you can jump right into working, and then that'll branch out and etc.
Yeah, so don't just like pick up and leave, just kind of go.
It's just a little less intimidating if you take a couple trips. I did that, so that I had at least like 5 people I knew in Nashville, but I didn't know very many at all. But at least you can begin working the next day with one of the 5 people that you do know. And
to add to that, because, we're all like, wow, that's going to be expensive. SoCan Foundation actually has travel grants to help you go and do these trips. And song camps, or if you have someone there who's going to hook you up with a writing room, there is funding available to help you do those things. So, that's something we can talk about after. You can take my card. I can email you the link. But there is funding that helps us do that. So we're very lucky here in Canada to have that. And the other thing is, like, there's opportunities. I think we just opened a submission to be part of a writers round in Nashville, like right before Americana Fest starts. So those are the kinds of things, like, if you, or, we're present at Americana Fest. So even if you're not showcasing, if you want to go take a trip and have someone on the front lines who's going to help connect you with the industry there, like, that's what we're there to do. So anytime you see us in Nashville or LA, like, you can line up a trip alongside and we'll absolutely invite you to the events if you're going to put that time and effort in. So really just like being in the know and like seeing who's out there at what time and connecting yourself that way is like super important.
Yeah, and I want to add to what she said. Nashville and LA both have SoCan houses that you could stay at for free for, I think, a total of 2 weeks. So if you do want to take Yeah, if you wanted to, I like her reaction. Wow. It's really helpful. I stayed in the Nashville one, at least one of my trips, maybe two, when I first went to Nashville. So it's free. So just all you have to do is get on the schedule. You have to apply. It's on SOCAN's website. So that's really, really helpful too, because you could get grant money to go and a free place to stay. And Josiah's American, and he's like,
You guys are lucky.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. That's why, like, when people complain about not getting their grants, I'm like, well, you're lucky they're even available.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
You guys are
but we're just trying to
super
get where
blessed.
you're born. So who's lucky?
I love Canada. You guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also true. That's why our grants exist, is because we don't live in those major markets, and it's hard to get into the U.S., especially now. Anyway, enough about that.
Also,
Question
try Toronto too if you're into pop and
Yeah, I was
that
just
world.
thinking
Go to
that.
Toronto for
Isn't
like
that-
for some trips and stuff if you want some more
Yeah.
experience. I mean, pop. I mean, so many people are coming out of Toronto. Like the Weeknd, Alicia Cara. I mean, Drake was there. I mean, they're like massive. Shawn Mendes. Like all those people came out of Toronto. Jesse Reyes, all those people. So, yeah, just again, like SOCAN, any managers, anybody you meet, just hit them. Anybody you've met, hit them up.
Yeah. But also people in Toronto are generally going to be connected with people in Nashville and LA as well. Like once you go to that market, they're also connected in the other major music markets. So that also helps. It's sort of like a slow build up. We have a question back here in the corner.
What's your thoughts on, as far as songwriters, there's a lot of access to either competitions or services that try to take your money. Places like Taxi and competitions, they all want, major dollars
Oh, like
sometimes
30
just to submit their songs. And you just wonder, is that ever a good venue to go, or are you better off other ways? So what's your thoughts on things like, Taxi and stuff like that, where you're paying to have someone, just listen to your song?
That's a good question. So the question was, there's submission services where you can submit your song for opportunities, like Taxi as an example. What is your thoughts on that? Do you have any insight?
I wouldn't necessarily do that. Like American Songwriter, there's certain avenues. She won a songwriting competition, so it's about selecting the right opportunities. But I wouldn't go around, spending money to have people listen to your songs.
Don't pay to submit kind of
No.
thing. Just
Yeah, most things to get feedback and stuff, you can get feedback for free. So many people are like want to give you feedback so hard for their own ego that you don't need to pay for it. So yeah, in that sense. But I don't know a lot about Taxi. I do know some people that have gotten their managers from being on Taxi. I know some people that got some film and TV stuff through Taxi. So that company in particular, I've heard a couple good things, but I've never used it myself. So I don't want to steer you wrong. But feedback and stuff, always can get that for free. You can get unwelcome feedback all the time. So, yeah. And then competitions, most of them are pretty low. I can't remember if Radio Star, I don't even know if it's still called Radio Star, but I believe it's still going on in Canada. I don't remember if they had an entry fee or not. But it was legitimate, and I did get a check from it. So that kind of thing is worth it. If you think that you have a song that can do it, it will pay you back way more than what you entered. But I just don't know. Most of them are $30 to enter, something like that. Yeah, I would start. I mean, if $30 doesn't mean anything to you, try it. But I don't know each individual contest. I will say some of them are legit just because I have experience in that. But some of them are probably less legit. So just be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends. Sometimes I just Google search, like go like on a Reddit page, because you'll see a thread of like honest answers about those things. I had a question and I totally blanked. But the feedback thing is true. Like music industry people, like they love to give their opinions. Even if you like don't know them that well, but like they're in the industry for a reason. They're working this crazy business for some reason, like me. But yeah, you can reach out to someone and just say, hey, like, I want to send my songs. I really want honest feedback on this. And it is important to let them know that you want honest feedback, because when somebody will send me, like sometimes people will send me, you know, their album and they're like, hey, like, I want you to listen to this. And then I always ask, I'm like, what do you want me to listen for? Like, what is the reason? But if they are like, I would like some constructive criticism, you know, like, rip me to shreds if you have to, you know, and really making it clear to somebody that that's what you want is important too. Because also if they're being delicate with you, like it might not help as much as if you're like, no, just like tell me how it is. But you shouldn't have any problems with that. I remember my question. Have either of you, or are you members of the Nashville Songwriting Association International, NSAI?
I'm not.
Nope.
No, okay.
But been to events and think highly of the organization.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, because I know that if you, with a membership, a yearly membership, and they are an international organization, they can also help link you up with publishers and other writers. And you also have, I think, like a certain number, I think it's like 10 songs per year where they get like publishers and people to listen to and give you that feedback. But not only are you getting feedback, then you actually have these like publishers that are listening, because they might not otherwise listen to you. So that's an organization you might want to look into. Also
the Grammys. I would sign up for the Grammys. $100 a year, and their events are great. Yeah, so many positive things. They're all across America, probably here in Canada too. I mean, I'm not sure. But yeah, $100 a year. That mixed with CSAC, BMI, Manitoba Music, all this stuff. It's really helpful. It's amazing. You can have you can fill your calendar probably. You know. Yeah, that's true. Does anyone have any other questions at the moment? Yes.
So I know that we've talked about Los Angeles and Nashville, and of course Winnipeg being meccas of songwriting. But if you were going to look internationally, what are some
London.
So the question is, besides like Nashville, LA, and then of course we live here, are there any other major markets for songwriting?
I would say London.
Ditto.
Like UK, not London, Ontario.
Yeah. The UK. I'd say a lot goes on in Sweden.
Massive, yeah.
Yeah. A lot goes on in Sweden. What else? I mean,
I say Germany is massive.
Like K-pop is huge right now, but it's mostly just coming out of the US.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go to Korea.
Do not do that. Do not.
As far as major, that's probably that's major. You could go to other. I'm sure
they say Australia. You can do that. You know.
Yeah, Australia would kind of be a little bit like
Canada.
Doing Canada. Yeah, yeah. So you're probably better off just going for Canada. Yeah, London, Sweden.
At the moment, I would recommend going to Nashville as a trip to start there, because there's so many genres of music there. Yeah. I think that's a good place to go. LA is just a harder nut to crack at times. You know, it's so political and it's so hard to find the community. Like if you go out in Hollywood, it's hard to just run into, you know, a bunch of people to write with. But in Nashville, it's probably just a little bit easier. Smaller town, it's cheaper. If you do want to do a practical trip to try to see what's out there and see how you fit in, I would recommend starting there. But Los Angeles is probably more fun.
When I was like a baby writer, Los Angeles would have been so hard to just like insane. Drop into.
It's insane.
But baby writer in Nashville easier. It's just like everyone, the person at your coffee shop is like want to write.
Everybody.
It's just like easy to kind of.
And that's just like common speak. Like that's the language you want to write. In LA, that's more intimidating. But like, oh, talk to my manager, and that's like 2 months for a date, and then they won't even show up.
Okay, not always. It's not always.
I'm just saying, like if you're starting
but
out,
yeah,
it's like
maybe it could be
being
hard.
Super real, yeah.
I got a question back here.
I was just going to add some good cities for matches in Canada would be Vancouver, Montreal. I've been to both. Absolutely wonderful cities.
Okay, that comment is helpful for people who looking to write in Canada. Vancouver and Montreal are also good writing markets, in addition to Toronto. Yeah.
I guess I'm curious. It sounds like it just happens. You say, "Hey, you want to write?" and they're like, "Sure." But what does that? Can you give us a script? Because it always feels like people, understandably, are looking to work with people who can help them move forward. So if you're the low person on the totem pole, how do you convince them that you are worth considering working with?
That's a good question too.
Conversation.
Yeah. I'm just going to repeat it for the people online. So the question was like, when you're sort of at the bottom of the totem pole and you're wanting to write with people, and you're approaching them, is there like some sort of script or some sort of guidelines to approach that, because like to make them want to work with you and give you that time?
First of all, don't reach too far up the totem pole. Go one level at a time. So whoever is the one level above you on the totem pole, that's who I would go for. And all they have to do is think that you have something to offer. So if you want to say like, hey, I love what you do. Can I send you some stuff? And then send the stuff. And the stuff will speak for itself, whether they think that you can offer them something that they're missing or something that they're also into. So I would offer to send them stuff, because there's also the power sometimes. This is not a lie. It doesn't always work. But sometimes you can just be such a likable person and be so dope to hang out with. You can get in rooms just because people want to hang out with you. And like, I've seen it.
Or another approach to this whole thing is having a project. So it's like if you have a friend that's making a movie, or you have a friend that's making something, they have a budget. You're like, you live in the same town, you want to work together. You're like, I'm working on this thing. Would you like to join me?
Good.
Will you write 1 or 2 songs on it? So it's about, it's a strategy. And it's, you want to be working on projects anyway. You don't want to just be writing for the sake of writing.
Yeah, you have to have something that they
they
want.
On something. Yeah.
So either that's just how good you are, or it's your project, or it's a project you're affiliated with. Just one of those has to resonate.
I like that you brought up the movie and film thing, because actually where I met Tommy over here is doing our live streaming. We've been trying to sort of partner with Winnipeg Film Group, because we here in Manitoba, our film industry is actually like bigger than our music industry. It's thriving. And there are lots and lots of filmmakers, including Tommy, who they're actually actively looking for people to compose and write for their projects. And they message me all the time, and they're like, do you know someone who can do this? And to be honest, like, I know only a handful of people that have put themselves out there to me to be like, I want to do this. But that's a really good start. And it doesn't mean you have to like compose entire orchestras. I've seen a lot of these like short films, and it's just an acoustic guitar with like a vocal over top. But you can go to Winnipeg Film Group and put your name like on a list as a potential composer, and then that's giving you some cred to say like, I've written for this film, I've written for this commercial, I've done this, that, and the other thing. And you can really build your name up that way as well, and get working in those projects.
Can I add to this for you? Are you primarily just a writer? You would say you're a writer.
I'm trying to start that out, whether I want to include the artist, like the performing
'Kay.
aspect of it, but definitely the writing is,
Okay, because if you do see yourself, you can do a project yourself and start it that way. But otherwise,
albums that I've
yeah. Okay, so you could get people just interested in being part of your artist stuff, or if you want to go writer-wise, even when I was in my early 20s, I was already developing other artists younger than me. So find an artist who needs your help as a writer, and you can pull people in to that project. Just like he said, if you're working on a film or something, same thing. If you find
Yeah.
an artist who people are like, oh yeah, the artist is dope, and you're the one who's developing them, you can bring other people in. So finding
Yeah.
other talent too can help.
Then you have control over the project, and it's yours. You can do what you want with it.
That's great, actually. 'Cause one of the great joys of my life is hearing other people. Like I'm a classical composer as well, and hearing other people perform my stuff. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah,
Just doing things with it that I couldn't do.
that's a really good way to pull other people in. Just find someone talented who needs you, who maybe doesn't write.
Yeah, I actually, that's a good, my son goes to the Music Cellar. It's a music school here, and I went to their recital, and there's like these kids that are like between the ages of like 11 and 15, and they're just doing covers, but to hear some of their vocals, I'm like, man, like if you could just like jump on and get one of them to sing your songs like from the ground up, because they're not like writing at that level yet, but you know, like check those out and like try to scout.
Yeah, Bieber, you know?
Someone, did you have another question? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should talk about the writing room for people who are like, who are looking at maybe contacting some of their local artists. Maybe we could talk a little bit about like the do's and don'ts and like how to collaborate properly in a room where you're sort of getting equal pull, or like how does it work when, you know, one person disagrees with a line, but the other person really wants it, and like how do you sort of move through those battles, I guess, in a writing room, and what are some, I guess let's go through the do's and the don'ts of that.
Okay, yes, I want to. Are you talking about two artists together, or a writer and an artist? So like two artists, that can be really hard because you're both like, is this my project? Is this your project? Establish whose project it is first. Yeah. Yeah. People who have open attitudes, it'll feel more open and flowing. I feel like some people aren't used to collaborating, and it can be tough. If they're used to collaborating, you find someone who does it a lot, you shouldn't feel stuck like that very often. Do you have a note on that particularly?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It sounds like maybe not the best fit. The situation that you kind of are talking about, it feels like, you know, if one person wants to do an acoustic song, one person wants to do an EDM song, and you won't marry it, it's just not going to work. Yeah, just like, or play ball. Just be like, oh, let's do your vibe today, and then let's do the other vibe the other day.
And it's like dating, like chemistry. You might just end up in a room with someone you have like zero chemistry with. I think it's a good exercise when you're first starting to actually still try to finish a song.
Definitely.
Later, don't. Just be like, this isn't working. But like, even if it's tough, use it as an exercise to grow, to like try to finish the best song possible. But you'll meet someone who you have this crazy creative chemistry with, and you'll be like, oh, that's how easy this can be, you know? And it's just about, you might have to date a lot of people to find that, or you might get lucky after a couple. And then, sorry, yours was more.
Yeah, like what are some, like maybe just some like tips and tricks for the writing room? Like, again, like if you say there's like one line, and you know, well, first of all, you generally in a writing room establish right away how the splits are going to work. Or at least like, it depends on the collaborative environment. But if you're starting from scratch with a few different writers, let's just say someone is like really hooked on a line and the other two writers are not. How do you get through that? Like, how do you convince this person that it's not great? Or do you all say, okay, well, we all have to agree on everything to make this song? Like,
I think it depends on the line, number one. So if it's like the hook, if it's like the line, you got to get on the same page. But if it's just like a casual line, you can come back to it and be like, hey, can we revisit this? You know, like, can we beat this line? That's normally the line that you use. Can we beat that?
I have a thing yeah, I think we can beat this. Guys, I really like this line, but I think we can beat it. Which is really like, yo, listen. Like
I was gonna ask for like specific language to delicately tell somebody that you don't like something.
Yeah, it's nobody's fault, because if there's a bad line in the song, you didn't come up with a better one. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if that person wrote a bad line and you didn't come up with a better one, how can you hate on that bad line? So you might just be like, yo, can we meditate on this? I think we could just beat this line. Let's all try to just see how we can up this line, because something's not sitting right with it. I like writing with three people. I didn't always. I like writing with three people, and I do it a lot these days. It's often three people. And the reason that's great is because you can have two top liners, people who write lyrics and melodies in a room, and a producer who often can do more than just make beats and stuff, but they get slotted there. And so you have, two opinions writing something, and you go, hey, third person, Jeremy, which idea is better? And they're like the tiebreaker. So if there's like two people out of three who agree this is dope, you go that direction. So I'm always like, if I say if I'm outvoted, I'm good to go. We'll just move in that direction. If you guys are both like, this is the coolest idea ever, and I'm not really feeling it, I'm going to go, okay, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Like, I'm going to move with you guys. Because otherwise I might hold up the session for 3 hours and we might not move at all. And I've worked with people who are stubborn like that, who just kind of kill the entire vibe because the train stops moving and they're not willing to give in to something that's not their idea. So I feel like when you have 3 people, it's easy because you have that tiebreaker person to either go this way or that way.
Cool. That's good to know.
Am I able to take a pee break?
Yeah, we're actually gonna wrap up in
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay.
I know. I'm like also
I was like,
dying
I drank
up here.
too much
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna shut this down in 5 minutes. So, Kelly has a question here in the front.
How do you split the royalties between someone who, let's say, made a beat or a guitar song?
Mhm.
Let's say someone made all the chords and whatever. How do you split between a songwriter, the one who composed the song? The lyric writer
Mhm.
and the music composer and the arranger.
Okay. That's a great question. Actually, thank you. So we're going to talk about splits really quickly. So her question was, how do you split, like if you're writing, if someone's say the beat maker or they're the instrumentalist who kind of laid the background and that's in there, but with the lyricist and melody writer, and then the person who further arranges that, what is common?
What's further arranger?
Well, like the producer, I guess, like if they're like, oh, like okay, if it's a beat maker, and then you have the melody writer over top, and then you go to producer, and the producer's like, you know what, actually, like that verse is actually a chorus, and that chorus is actually a verse, and I think we need to put a bridge in here, right?
That part seems to be negotiable. It's even splits in the room typically, and then the rest is negotiable. So the additional producer, it depends how much they're getting paid, number one. Mm-hmm. Like if they're getting paid $10,000, you're not going to give them 50% of the publishing too. Yeah. So it's negotiable, I would say. And that ranges from 5 to 50%, max 50%. If it's Max Martin, it's going to be 50%. If it's going to be like, somebody you never heard of, it's going to be 5. So I think name carries a lot of weight and the addition of what they contribute.
In Nashville, to especially normally assume that it's even splits for whoever's in the room creating it. In LA, there are negotiations that happen afterwards that you can start with 33% of a song and end up with 15 because of things that came in afterwards. So if you want to set the precedent at the beginning of the session, like, hey guys, we're all in the room creating this song, we have even splits on it. I used to like write a whole song and then someone would just put chords to it and they would get 50%.
Which is nuts.
It's kind of insane.
Nuts.
But that's what I would do because I needed them at that time. And they would make me a track. So it would like help get me a track.
And that's free.
And then it's free because they have 50% of the song.
So it might be worth it.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, so it is a little bit dependent on the situation and the expertise. Okay, one more question.
It was kind of maybe a mix between that one and the one before, but I guess when it comes to etiquette for the writing room, let's say if you have your notepad and your little pocket recorder for ideas and stuff like that, and then you get an idea when you're at home and you bring it. Is there any sort of like just to tell everybody to disclose I'm going to be recording this and figuring things out and bring it to the next session? Is that usually how that goes?
If you get an idea at home,
Yeah, and you want to bring it to the next. Because my best ones come in the shower, which is
yeah, you don't have to it doesn't have to spark out of the room. I love, if it's a great idea, especially, I love when people walk in and be like, yo, I was driving here and I got this thing and it's like, and you're like, okay, let's go. Just come in with enthusiasm about your idea. And if they're into it, they're into it. If they're not, bring it to the next one. Yeah.
So it's fine to come up with ideas on your own and then bring it to the writing room afterwards. I have to wrap up now, but they're going to be here at the end. So we'll talk to them at the end. There's so much more. I feel like we could sit here and talk about this all day. But this is a good start to, I really do want to focus a lot on the songwriting community here, because I think we all need to be in more collaborative environments. And it's cool to see someone like Heather, who has come from Winnipeg and is now working as a career writer in LA. It's totally possible. The dream is possible. So I really want to thank you for coming out, and you as well, Josiah. It's awesome to have your expertise. And of course, for all of you who showed up, feel free to talk to them at the end. Let them go to the bathroom first, though. Yeah, don't they get first dibs on that, because it's been a while and they've done all this talking. But after that, feel free to talk to them. And then for anyone who's online or anyone who has to jet out of here right away, if you do have questions that weren't answered, you can email us here at training@manitobamusic.com. You can send me your questions. And then I'm actually going to be spending a week with them. So if you do it right away, I can get an answer for you right away and send it back to you. So let's give it up for Heather and Josiah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And this, if you forget anything that was said here as well, this is being live streamed, but it's also available on Facebook and on our website afterwards. So thank you all for coming out on a Saturday, and let's go eat some muffins.